Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of The Council. This is episode 7, entitled Out of Their Element, for actual Star Wars reasons, not just because it's Super Bowl weekend and I'm British and have no idea what's going on in that game. Tom, you screwed this up in the first take, but who's playing? Who's playing in the Super Bowl?
The Broncos and the Panthers.
Broncos and the Panthers.
Yes.
Okay.
I knew the Broncos were playing. They beat the Pats, and that's my team. But, yeah, the Panthers.
Are you going to be watching it, Andy?
I will, yeah. We've a couple sports bars in my city kind of stay open late and kind of do a lock-in. We got tickets to that, so I'll be probably texting you boys and asking what the hell is going on.
What time will that be? We'll go until
I'll be in the pub, in the bar, I think, from about midnight, which is 7 p.m. your time.
Yep.
So I don't know if that stacks up. And
it starts at 6:40. I mean, 6:30.
Okay, yeah. So midnight.
Wait a second. Super Bowl Sunday. So
yeah,
that goes into well into Monday morning.
Well into Monday morning.
That is Super Bowl Monday morning.
That is a day of annual leave required.
Nice.
But yeah, so all I know is it's basically rugby where you are allowed to pass forward. That's all I'm going to work on. So. But yeah, there are actual Star Wars reasons as to why this episode is called Out of Their Element, and we'll get into that in the discussions later. But Mick, welcome back. It's been a few weeks since the last episode. It's always good to see you and have a good chat. How are you?
Yeah, good to be here. Good. We ran our winter kit tournament over the weekend. Unfortunately, my colleagues weren't able to make it, but they did express interest. I got a guy from my dojo who's also interested. I taught him how to play Thrones. I took down a Thrones tournament up in St. Cloud.
When you say took down, you mean stopped it from happening, or
basically I stopped a couple of players' hopes and dreams from happening. I came in there with a Baratheon fealty deck that Tiny Grimes was talking about. I was like, I think this deck might be kind of okay. It was a similar deck to what America was playing when America made Westeros great again.
Good man.
And took that up to St. Cloud and did well with it. And
was that a store championship or a game night kit?
That one was a game night kit. Yeah, I got the Mormont.
The Night's Watch match. Yep.
The Night's Watch match. Yeah.
I also took down one of those tournaments.
Nice.
By incorrectly playing Greyjoy cards.
That's how you have a world.
People got to call you on it.
What? No, So it was so bad, the Seastone chair, I didn't even know that I had to kneel my faction card to use it, let alone that it can't target things with attachments. So that happened.
So let alone that it has to be unopposed. It was just, hey, I want a military challenge. I'll kill it.
It's one of those cards that, you read it. I read it when it got spoiled. Everybody apparently read it when it got spoiled.
Yeah.
They were like, that's broken. It's just a replacement effect. And nobody cared to read it since then, so... Yeah, it's still really good, but not as good as I thought it was.
Okay, so you were just randomly changing the text on cards, were you, Tom? Good. I win a challenge and gain 15 power. I mean, it seems good.
World champions make up their own rules.
I'm pretty sure this is how the card works.
True. So, try and... Tom, how have you been?
What up? I've been good. Busy.
Not seen much of you recently. Need to.
Yeah, store championship season. I actually haven't gotten to a Star Wars one yet. Our store was supposed to be the first one in the area for Star Wars, and it got snowed out.
Yeah,
so
you guys are having trouble with the winter weather at the moment, aren't you?
No, it's not that bad. That was the one. I mean, it's been cold, but that was the one snowy time that we had, and it just completely destroyed the weekend. So our store championship got rescheduled. I've been to some Netrunner store I went to 2 Netrunner store championships already, and I missed a Thrones one, but a Thrones one happened the other day. Been running a ton of game night kits at our store, so yeah, everything's been really busy, which is good.
Yeah, it's the same over here in the UK. I think we've only had 2, maybe 3 store championships now. The first one I got to, and the attendance was shocking. There was only 2 of us there.
Wow.
Yeah. So
you lost.
I got the bye,
Oh.
but I'd like to actually get to an event where it's a full day of gaming.
Yeah, you want a few more people.
I want to feel like you've earned it sometimes, but I'll take it.
Sure.
How about over there? Any interesting decks making a surface for the store championship?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Well, at our store championship, Shad won with. It was a Sith deck. It had one copy of Brothers of the Sith, but his light side deck was capital ships.
Yeah.
Nice.
Beefy capital ships. But
Okay,
at the kit, at the winter kit, he won that one. We had a newer player do really, really well, swept up through the final rounds, and he and Shad split in the last round. So because it was for a playmat, it's like, well, I don't want to have them do a full match again.
Yeah.
Because it's just, then they're doing like 5 games maybe. But I'll make them play a third tie-breaking game. And they had to do that. And I think Shad actually, he had the cards to win, to sweep the guy. But he got stuck up on he had to do tractor beam, and he had nothing to tractor beam off onto at the time.
Gotcha.
But he didn't realize that he could also do it with Morith Duel. So he had this really cool Spice Fleet deck. It was Morith Duel in the Spice Trade.
Yeah.
Double Zizor, Chimera, Yularen, Deploy the Fleet, Thunder Flare, and Sector Lockdown. So a bunch of capital ships. And capital ship strikes, blows up an objective, Morith Duel reacts. Capital ship strikes another objective, Morith Duel reacts.
Yep.
You can pump that Chimera quite a bit.
Capital ships are a thing.
It's also pretty funny with Spice Blitz.
Yeah, we'll get to Morith Duel later in the episode as we do our pack review. Cool. But yeah, capital ships are everywhere at the moment. We were going to spend some time talking about them, but we've got other topics to get through this episode. So yeah, I think we'll move on to the news section. Tom, there's been some pretty good news from FFG around the American kind of organised play structure, isn't there? So that they've changed the way nationals work.
Yeah. So previously we've had one national every year, and it's been the North American National, I believe. Previously, it was just called North America, and this year they announced we're going to actually have a U.S. National.
Okay.
Separate from a North America National, and they actually called the North America one the North America Championship. So, but it still falls in the same category of you have regionals, then nationals, then worlds. I think.
Yeah.
So if you win the North American or the American National, you assumedly get a bye to Worlds?
I believe if you win the U.S. National or the North American National, you get a bye to Worlds.
Right.
So the U.S. National is going to be at Origins, which is in Columbus, I believe, in June, yeah. and then North American Nationals will continue to be in Indianapolis at Gen Con in August.
Okay, so they just added an extra event.
They just added an extra event. And apparently last year, I think it was America from the forums, he ran a Star Wars tournament at Origins last year that apparently got a pretty good turnout. So
excellent.
Yeah, I think they just realized that's a good option to do another event. It's kind of close, right? June and August, but it's a little bit earlier in the season, so
yeah,
you get a little bit different of a meta, which is nice. Then but I'm not sure. I believe they're going to be doing a U.S. National for all of their games at Origin, not just Star Wars.
Just Star Wars.
Yeah,
because I was going to say they've done something similar. They've basically added an extra event type for X-Wing, I believe, where there still is the national championships and then they go to Worlds. But I've heard that there's something where each of the 8 national champions around the world go somewhere central and just compete for it's not the World Championship, but it's all the national players coming together to compete for a trophy. That's
yes.
Completely separate to Worlds. So it's interesting they're adding these different tier events and a bit like tennis, I guess. They've got multiple top tier events going on now. So it's good.
Yeah, I somebody told me about that. Apparently there's 8 events. And part of the prize support is actually winning the trip to the place where the thing is, because obviously if you have 8 events all around the world, and people need to get there. So apparently part of the prize support for that is actually like the cost of the trip. So, but yeah,
that's really nice.
Yeah.
I don't have enough time for X-Wing. I just don't. I have a box of it over there, but
I think it's the same with all of us, isn't it? We all FFG games. You tend to cross into all the other different LCGs and X-Wing and Armada, and just it's what we got time to play.
There was a store championship for X-Wing here at FFG this last weekend.
Did you play?
87 people.
87 people.
Wow.
For a store championship.
We can only dream for our LCG. I've got an Imperial Assault Store Championship coming up on Sunday. Planning on doing well for that, just for the coin, really. So the balance coin, so I can use it in the LCG.
It's a nice coin.
I don't think it does anything in Imperial Assault. I can't think of anything that it can do.
Shows initiative?
I think it's literally just like a flip. It's a challenge thing. Like
Yeah.
if you...
I thought it could have been initiative as well, Mick, but then actually I thought it's never... It can be Imperial versus Imperial, so...
No, I think it's just like pick a side flip.
No, gotcha. Yeah. But yeah, as well as you guys having yours is official and sanctioned by FFG in another tournament within their structure, we've got hopefully some news coming up about the European Championships, which are going to be held in Barcelona in June, July. So a few of us over here in the UK, Sam Pigden, Callum, John Paul, we're thinking about making the trip over. But we're still waiting on official news. So as soon as we get that, that'll be. We'll talk about that in full probably in the next council.
So each country will get their own. You'll have a UK one.
No, so the UK will have its nationals as it had last year. But basically, we in the European community, Spanish, French, and the UK, it looks like we're collaborating to put on an unofficial event.
Oh, unofficial.
And just call it the European Championships. And it looks like this year it will be in Barcelona in July, which will be fun for my pasty northern British. I'm not used to that weather, but it'll be good to get out there. Yes, Lobster Man indeed. But as soon as we have more official news around that, we'll obviously talk about that. But watch this space.
That's very exciting.
Yeah, make sure you let me know. I mean, I definitely need a U.S. winner for that, so I'll come on over.
Done.
I'll bring Mick with me, though.
Bring Mick. Bring David as well. We need to get David over to some of these events too. Get the whole team back together. So I think that's it in terms of changes to tournament structures and organised play season so far. The only other thing to mention is sexy new spring organised play kits, which are a change from the kits that we've had in the good old days. Mick, why is that? What's happened?
I logged on. I kept looking for, where's the mat? What's the new mat? Where's the mat? There's no mat. There's no play mat in the spring kit. Instead, there is a new but somewhat familiar-looking Death Star dial.
Yep.
Yeah. But it's just for the top player. So, watch out, Twin Cities meta.
Yeah, they're going to be in demand because they look. I don't know how big they are. Looking at the scale of them, if you make some assumptions around the little FFG plastic spinny nub thing, it looks as if it might be bigger than the standard dial, but I don't know. I think we need to see it from FFG.
I hope it's the same size, but
yeah, me too.
I expect I'm probably going to order 10 of those kits for our store,
and then only actually have one event, and then keep 9 dials.
No, I don't need 9 dials. I have a Nationals one.
Zing.
I mean, I'm going to win one of the new ones because I want both, but
True. Yeah, those dials are close to my heart. If anyone, the Fully Ops logo is very, very similar, so I need me one of those dials.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking forward to that. So a dial instead of a mat, and only one instead of 4?
No. It's always been one.
There's only been one mat.
It's always just one mat.
Yeah.
Store championships are in your head, which is 4 mats.
That's why.
So we lost the mat and we lost the deck boxes, right? But we got a dial.
Yep.
And
I'm actually a little bit upset about losing some of those deck boxes because, I only transport so many with them, but I store stuff in them.
Yeah.
So Like I always welcome more deck boxes, and I'm getting some Thrones cards. I don't
Well,
I don't have a lot of Thrones boxes.
that's the
I gotta
big thing.
basically put Zuckuss, all Thrones cards go in Zuckuss boxes because I got too many of those.
True.
Yeah, that's the big thing in my mind is that like for Star Wars boxes, I'm kind of like whatever. I have boxes sitting everywhere, right? They're like literally all over my desk. And we've had multiple boxes for every faction, right? We've had all 6 factions represented, but Thrones just rebooted. So obviously Thrones has had deck boxes for all their factions as well through 1.0, but as of 2.0, we've only got a Night's Watch box and we got a Tyrell box from the Store Championship, right? So their kit, to kind of switch a little bit, they have a whole Lannister kit, which is great. It looks awesome. But, like, I really kind of wish there was a Lannister box there, even if it was only, like, a 2 of,
Yeah.
right, instead of a 4. And the thing with these kits is, like, you have to look at the 2 different groups of people, right? There's a lot of players like us who have been playing for a long time and have stacks of play mats, and we don't care. We have stacks of boxes, stacks of play mats. But we also get a lot of new players, and when new players come in, they still want to win mats. They still want to win deck boxes.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm really excited about this kit. I think the dial's a great idea, and it looks awesome. But I think that they should still kind of rotate kits between, like, maybe have some play mats, then have some tokens, play mats, tokens. And I don't think they should give up on the deck box stuff altogether because I think a lot of new players still want that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, but in general, I love the concept of having a dial in here. I think it's really weird that they had dials that's like a top 8 national prize, and then they're like a couple months later in a game night kit. And Anton had commented about that online. But I mean, the Nationals ones still have the rarity factor. They're not going to be...
It's a different kind of dial.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of dial, yep.
It feels to me like it's a good move from my perspective from FFG because, as I say, if you just continue to only do play mats for all your events, just championships, regionals, and the seasonal kits, it kind of oversaturates the playmat levels. Whereas certainly for Star Wars, playmats, dials, commitment cards, those are things that you can cycle throughout the season, I think, and have a good mix of everything for the newer players coming in. Because as you say, we've got more than enough mats. It's only ever when a kind of sexy new one comes up on the scene that I'm kind of really gunning to win it. But yeah, it'd be good if FFG start doing a dial a year with a different design on it, some different force commitment tokens every year with a different design on it, some new damage tokens, etc. It'd be good to see that rotate. So it's a good move. It's a good move.
So let's talk about the 2 specific promos that we're getting. Participation is TIE Attack Squadron.
Yep.
Pretty awesome.
Core box card.
It's a card that seems to always come back randomly in the meta, right? Like it will just come out of nowhere and destroy stuff because that pod is great in general. Yep. But then our prize is Wedge Antilles, right? Which is, I love the card. I love the art. It's a Hoth card. It's gonna cycle.
Yes.
I don't love it. I don't love that choice. I really wish they would keep promo cards to core and deluxe cards only, right? Because I don't want my promos cycling, really.
That's a fair point.
But that's my opinion on that. The artwork.
Is this the first promo they've done from a cycle?
No, Zuckuss was from a cycle.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Even the Nationals Luke promo was from a cycle. There's been a couple.
That's true.
It's going to be a while before they cycle out, but the point's valid.
It will be.
It is gorgeous. In its defense, it's gorgeous.
Yeah. So if you look at it this way, though, right? Like Zuckuss was a participation promo.
True.
I'm okay if that cycles. Everybody's going to have them. There's a ton of them.
Oh, but the rarity, the rare ones.
In this case, the Wedge is the prize, where the TIE Attack Squadron is the participation, and I think it should have been reversed in the case of, in this case specifically.
Yeah.
Also, is there 1 or 2 TIE Attack Squadrons in that pod? Is it just one?
Just one.
Just one.
Just one. Yeah, that would be.
You run it in duplicate.
You run it. I haven't played that pod in a super long time. But like, yeah. So it's all about the rarity thing, right? Like the fact that a national level prize. Granted, that was like Rogue Squadron cycle, so that will cycle even farther out, right?
Yeah.
But I just don't think that the bigger promos, even the Game Night Kit prize promos, I just don't think they should cycle. But it is what it is. The artwork's amazing for both of them.
Yeah, I love the TIE.
Yeah, I really like that wedge.
They're good. So, as you say, well, they're both wedge, not so much, but the TIE Tat Squadron is in a great pod that will see some play. I think it never goes out of fashion. A bit like sleuths, someone can always turn up to a day and wreck face with it. So yeah, happy with the spring 2016 kits. I think it's just online. The community is nothing but positive comments about it. Thumbs up everywhere. So good job, FFG.
Yes,
I think so. I think that's it for news now. So we'll move on to the meat of this episode, which is discussing the new Force Pack that's just been released. New alliances. So yeah, the new pack has been released. We've not quite got it in the stores here in the UK. I should be picking it up on the weekend, hopefully. But I know you guys over in the US. Yeah, Tom's got it there. 6 new pods, couple of one-ofs in this pack, which is good. So we're going to go through it, 2 packs apiece, and we'll start with Mick.
2 pods apiece. Wait,
Okay.
This is the first time we've gotten one-ofs in a long time, right?
Since the Hoth cycle, really.
Yeah.
They've been coming in deluxes, but other than that, it's been a while.
And getting neutral pods again in the Endor cycle. I think didn't Echoes and Rogue Squadron stay entirely away from
Neutrals. Yeah.
neutrals.
Yep. Ewoks.
And I think that worked out well too for fleshing out the factions, because they were able to, across the 6 different packs, get 5 pods for each of the 6 factions.
Yep.
But we're back to getting some neutral ones.
We are. So are you starting with the light side, Mick, or are we starting with dark side?
I am going to start with light side, right?
Okay.
Or...
No,
I'm starting with dark side. Haha, I lied. I'm going to move over here to dark side, I guess. Okay, so we're going to do Scum. I picked up the slave trade. No, the spice trade. It's one of those trades. I think the artwork on this one is gorgeous. I just wind up looking at it over and over, and it's like, that is a sweet-looking picture. Is that supposed to be Kessel itself? For some reason,
I think so.
I imagined Kessel being, but you definitely have some people transporting illicit goods.
It's traded as Kessel.
It is traded as Kessel. So this objective is really interesting and different. It's a limit 1 of. So you have to sort of say, okay, how much is this pod bringing to the deck? It has 2 resources and it's elite. And that is phenomenal.
Bonkers.
Like having a 2-resource elite objective.
It's our first elite objective, right?
It is our first elite objective. And having guaranteed sort of 5 resources on the flop, that is, again, 5 resources next turn, that can be a huge amount of acceleration. Like, we already know how good Masterful Manipulation is, being able to have 5 resources and then next turn have, still at least 4, if not more. But this one can give it to you turn after turn. It has 2 health, so if they do a committed attack to it, like it's going to blow up and you're going to lose your elite objective. But when it's destroyed, it doesn't go to their victory pile. And that's also interesting.
Yep.
So they can engage it, they can blow it up, but it's to deny your resource acceleration, and they're not getting victory points for it. Like, they might do a distraction attack at this one to focus some stuff out. So you'll have to sort of weigh how important it is to block and defend it.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you want to block because you just want to kill their things, but if it's a bad block, like this one will probably leave. It'll get blown up quite a bit, but it won't go to the victory pile.
Yeah.
So,
question about the
acceleration.
oh no, I'm being stupid. Never mind.
Continuous resource acceleration.
Yeah, it is. It just gives the light side that interesting question and dilemma to answer of, like, I don't want to destroy that because it's not going to benefit me, but I don't want to leave them with an elite resource.
Right.
Well,
That's painful.
Let's mention a couple other things. Zizor, Palpatine, objectives leave in play. This thing only has 2 health. So now you can put them out of position if you play this with Sith, or if you play it with... obviously, if you're playing it, you're probably playing it with Zizor. But, like, if you get either of those 2 guys out, they might not want to kill it because of a reaction that you're going to get for an objective leave in play.
Yeah.
So, it's pretty huge.
It's good.
And if it ever catches on too much, there's always, calling in favors.
Just move 5.
Or you can blank the
you
objective.
blank it.
Yeah, you blank it with
true.
the what's it called? Dirty secrets.
Oh god, so suddenly it will go to the victory pile, will it?
It's an
It
interrupt.
says forced interrupt, so that has to trigger before it leaves play, right?
As at least? No, I thought reactions have to trigger.
As they're
Reactions would trigger after.
Yeah.
Yeah, would it still have its text? Or would it be blank and go to the victory pile?
Eric,
or would it?
Eric, can you?
Eric.
We'll ask that one on the forums if it
So I
hasn't
know
already.
missions are actually really strange this way because a mission goes to the victory pile and then you trigger its reaction.
Yeah.
So if for whatever reason it had been blanked, like it leaves play, it regains its whole text, sort of unmanipulated, and then it triggers. But this one, I don't know.
I would think it doesn't, because we would have to look at when enhancements on
You would
an
think that it
objective,
doesn't.
that it does that the interrupt does not fire. It would go to the victory pile.
Yeah, I think it also would go to the victory pile,
which is pretty interesting.
Which, maybe Talon card becomes playable. Who knows?
Probably not.
At the very least, they'll stop it being elite. So.
Okay, so let's get on to the main in this deck, or in this pod. Morith Duel, who John Heath Clark says Morith Duel is best duel.
It's an accurate.
He may be right. It's currently correct.
I can't think of a better duel. So Morith Duel is, he costs 3, has 2 health, that's so-so. Black gun, black tactics, that's all right. His reaction is you can close out the game with this thing. So when an objective is destroyed, move 1 focus token from a unit you control to target enemy unit. This can be pretty big. So you could think defensively, like they're swinging in, they blow up the objective. Okay, they blew up the objective. You take a focus off of your Zizor, put it on their Luke again, focus him down, strike again with Zizor, strike again with Palpatine.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could go the more offensive route and strike with your Star Destroyer over and over and over and blow up 3 objectives.
Not limit once per turn.
Not limited at all.
So literally, that Star Destroyer can...
Like, how many objectives get destroyed.
Yeah.
So, but, that could potentially be a couple objectives.
You do need, with the objective destroyed, you need the timing to be on unopposed,
You do need the
right?
timing to be on, you need to preferably have it on the unopposed so that you can then go with that vehicle or unit against engaged again against a different objective. Otherwise, it strikes again in the same engagement.
Well, in the Star Destroyer decks, most of those are running Deploy the Fleet as well at the moment. So if for some reason you just need an extra attack, you can just blow your own.
If you have a Death Star, what's it called again? Death Squadron
Star Destroyer. Yeah.
Yes, SD.
Yeah. Death Squadron Command.
Death Squadron.
That's what he's talking about, right?
Well, that's the resource. I'm talking about.
We're talking about the 6-drop.
Oh, the
5
giant ship. Yeah.
So that thing has shields, and you have a forward command post out. That's 4 blast. You strike, you get unopposed. It blows up the objective. You trigger Morith Duel. You unfocus the thing. You focus one of their guys. You strike again, blow up an objective. Strike again when
But the problem with that is that ship's never going to get unopposed, right? If they have 1 unit available, it has no guns. But no matter what,
you're still
this thing
unfocusing
is really
something.
Yeah.
And the other really nice thing about it is it also buries their units further, so the counterattack is not nearly as bad.
Yeah.
Shad played a really, really cool Spice Fleet deck at our kit last weekend, which was double Zizor, Spice Trade, double Chimera, double Yularen, one Thunder Flare, and one Sector Lockdown.
Sector Lockdown's good.
Sector Lockdown. And was there something else? No, something like that. And he needed to do a distraction tech with Morith Duel to focus their last thing. Strike with like a commando guy, the Sector Lockdown commando that has a blast, blow up an objective, and then use Duel's trigger to unfocus one of his Star Destroyers that have been buried.
It's just very versatile, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, double striking, triple striking, any card like that is really good.
Yeah.
Yep. It's also important to note that he is unique. So Princess Scheme triggers.
True.
Princess Scheme works with him. Exactly. Yep. So the next card in the set, and we get 2 copies of it, is Energy Spider. And this is kind of a strange card. So it's a 1-drop with 4 health, 2 black guns, 2 black bombs. So the icons are phenomenal. And the cost is it's well undercosted, but it doesn't refresh during the refresh phase. So you're really, it works with Morith Duel, I guess. You could unfocus it that way. You could build a deck with Mahdi in it to try to use Mahdi's triggers to unfocus them.
Yep.
But for the most part, you're getting really just 1 strike out of them. And that can actually be okay, because if your first turn you drop one of those, that can be a pretty decent body and blocker and 2 black guns. You're not caring about the edge.
Do not care about the edge at all with this unit.
And it's a decent attacker too, with 2 black bombs. But you're getting really just 1 use out of it.
Mm.
So it's interesting. I don't think... Yeah, it'd be really strange to have a deck with 4 Energy Spiders. So these one of limit 1 objective sets are interesting like that.
Yeah.
Okay, the event, Spice Blitz. This is a double strike event. It's an addiction. Do we have other addictions?
I love that keyword. Don't think we do we?
Actually, I think we do, don't we? Isn't Spice Visions an addiction?
Is that an addiction? I'd have to check.
I got you. I got the book.
Might be an addiction. I was asking Tom if we had other addictions. Okay, Spice Blitz.
No, Spice Visions is not an addiction.
It's not?
Nope.
Huh.
Nope. No keywords.
Interesting. Okay. So is this the first addiction?
Probably.
All right, so this says remove all focus tokens from a target unit. If that unit is still in play at the end of the phase, place twice that many focus tokens on it. This is... it allows for double strikes. That's really powerful, but it's an incredibly versatile card because you can go offensive with it, where you're striking with your Chimera, and then you do Spice Addiction. You strike with your Chimera again for even more blast, and try to close out the game that way. You could Spice Addiction your Palpatine and just totally bury them for a turn. Or you Spice Addiction their Luke or Yoda after conflict's all done.
Yep.
It's okay, you had 3 focus tokens on you. Enjoy your 6. Don't have to worry about you for a while.
Yep.
So it's, you can go offense or defense.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
Versatile. I like those kind of events.
I like it.
And the Fate card, Hallucination. This one's a strange one. 2 dots, standard for Fate cards. Number 4. You may resolve the effects of a Fate card not named Hallucination in any edge stack as if it were revealed in your edge stack. If the balance of forces with the dark side, resolve the effects twice instead. So this was a really strange card because it seems like in the beginning it's I have to time this and just anticipate their Fate card perfectly in order to get it to trigger. But with the new, with the recent kind of rulings on how effects work, this card gets crazy because you're triggering an effect even if you haven't met the necessary conditions that effect on that Fate card to be triggered. So you could put this in an edge stack with your I Have You Now, not win the edge battle, but trigger the effects of I Have You Now with hallucination to just kill one of their attackers. And if the balance is with the dark side, you kill 2 of their attackers.
And if you win the edge battle,
maybe you kill the third.
And if you have a Jabba's Rancor.
Yeah.
Quattro. Yeah, that's bonkers.
That is crazy. The other nutty thing is so Shad was using this in combination with Imperial Fist. It's like, my debt collector blocks, and no damage back at you. I don't have a unique navy, but I get to trigger it twice.
Yeah, that seems unfair.
He was damaging his deploy the fleet, like, right before the edge battle, to then, like, hallucinate and fling it all back. This fate card, like, you got to see it at the right time. You got to see it with another important fate card. But even with heated battle, it's probably really good.
Yeah, I'll trigger that 4 times. Thank you.
That goes in the Guri Zeka
deck. Tom is glazing over. It's like, this is how I get my second worlds.
Yeah. Spice addiction.
18 heat of battle.
Man. Yeah, so I think from end to end, that pod, it's great.
It's a special pod. It doesn't have resources. The resource is really in the objective. Yeah. But it is a tricksy pod. It's got a lot of cool stuff. I think it doesn't go in every deck, but there's some great synergies in it.
Yeah.
And you can build, like, I could see this going into Sith decks and Navy decks with the Spice Fleet, or just a Scum deck.
I almost disagree. I almost feel like this goes in any Scum-based deck.
Any Scum-based deck?
Yeah, I mean, like, if you're playing Scum, you're gonna have Princess Scheme. You're gonna probably have Heats. If you're playing mono, you'll have a Guri or a Zeka or something, like anything with, like, any kind of fate cards, or even if you have no good fate cards, like, just this ability to, like, move focus tokens when stuff gets destroyed, and
that's
Spice
big.
Blitz. I feel like it's at that, like, Jabba's Rancor pod level where, like, I feel like
that's the weird thing with Scum right now is Scum needs more 1-for-1 resources, because the really strong Scum pods, the resources are kind of wonky.
Yeah.
Like, you get great acceleration with Masterful Manipulation, Spice Trade, you have the Debt Collectors, so there are resources, but you're not hitting your 1-for-1 resources. Iggy B's got the prize possession. That's a good step. But it needs some more resource enhancements.
Yeah, but with all these 2, I was going to say 5/2s, but this thing's a 2/2. With all these 2 resource objectives, like, I'm more okay playing a debt collector and a 4-cost unit on the first turn. Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So,
double focus this, you're still on 4 resources next turn.
Yep. So I really like that. I think this pod is really good, and I love the fact that it puts your opponent in this position where it's like, well, I got to go kill that, but I don't get anything for it.
Yeah, and the whole pod's versatile enough. The creatures,
and they might flip into an enforced loyalty.
Yes, but yeah, the whole pod for me is versatile enough. It doesn't just work with creatures or the focus manipulation. It's any unit to any enemy unit. It's just solid.
Yeah, the fact that you can Spice Blitz your capital ships is...
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you found, like, drugs for your whole crew. So.
Yeah, pirate Star Destroyer crew seems okay. But yeah, I think we'll see that in a lot of decks, and it fits into a lot of different variants, and we'll find a home for a long time to come, I think.
Agreed.
So we'll move on to the Navy. This is something that Flip and TGO spoiled a couple of weeks back, but we'll put our spin on it. So this one is Sector Lockdown. It's a standard 5/1. It's Elrude, which no idea where that is or what that is.
I kept thinking it was Elrond.
Elrond, yeah. But it's while this objective is undamaged, each player cannot play copies of unit cards that are in his discard pile. And that, whilst undamaged trigger is kind of Navy don't really care about that as much as most other factions because they have Tarkin Doctrine and the fling of damage back off objectives, so you can re-enable this if you get it turned off with Yularen. But not playing copies of units that are in discard, that's nasty.
It can be, yeah.
Yeah, you got to be kind of careful building that deck though, because you don't want to, like, if you want to take advantage of that text, you have to make sure that you're also not hurting yourself.
Yeah, it's not not enemies. It's both players, so you've got to watch it for you. You can't discard a Tarkin and then play a Tarkin. For example, you've got to watch out for that.
Although, as we've been seeing in like the Store Championship winning deck lists, like a lot of Navy players have been going to running a core and then a bunch of 6 to 8 one-ofs.
Yeah.
So there's variety there with Navy.
A core, 2 Tarkin.
A core. 2 Tarkin, 2 Yularen, 2 Chimera.
But yeah, this is something that's I think it's going to always just keep getting better, because with the nature of this, we're going to get more Lukes being released, more. We know we've got a new Palpatine coming out. I mean, that's a dark side card, but the point's valid. You're going to get new versions of mains all the time. So having one of those mains in your discard and you can't play the other, that's going to hurt the light side quite heavily. Especially with things like Yoda. Half the time, his best use is as a fake card, as 5 pips.
It's also going to hurt Chuds, right? Like if you have like Guardian of Peace, and it's 2 of them. If you're playing 2 of those pods, you kill 1 Guardian of the Peace, you have 3 dead cards now. And they're not good fate cards, so it almost hurts Chuds more, right?
Yeah.
More of them.
Yeah, it is not particularly fun to play against when you're running a Chud Swarm deck. Like your Wookiee Warrior that you wind up bidding your first turn.
Yeah.
Like, you can't let those guys hit the discard pile.
And if they do hit the discard pile, the main in the unit, Captain Zed, he's a 3 cost, 3 force pips, 3 health. So the triumvirate there. Black Tactics and an edge-enabled unit damage and objective damage. He's elite. He's a character and an officer, so that triggers with some of the Nogri and some events to free up officers. And while this unit is ready, cards cannot leave your opponent's discard pile, so it doesn't affect you. But suck on that, Jedi. That's an answer for unfinished business, if ever I've seen one.
And Wolfmen.
And Wolfmen. Yeah, Core Obi. Not Core Obi. Balance Obi. Yeah. Suddenly, not so much.
Cards cannot leave your... So, Luke's lightsaber, too.
Oh, God, yeah, it's not just units.
Ooh.
Good call. Good call, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, yeah, I guess the Core Obi-Wans get cards back when you win a Force struggle. Nope.
That's Balance Obi.
Is that Balance?
I mean,
that's
yeah.
Core Obi. No, Core Obi is face up in the edge stack, isn't it? Balance Obi, yeah. It's good.
It's pretty good.
And he's got a good icon spread, too.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's elite, that helps a lot.
And he fits in that magical 3 cost, 3 force pips. That's why Sate's so good as well, I think, for just... sometimes you need the force pips early on in the game to take that struggle, and you don't have enough resources to play a Vader or a Palpatine. But yeah, 3 pips, especially for Navy, is good. Good on a main.
It's pretty good.
Yep. Moving on, we get a second main. We get another Star Destroyer, as if we needed to deal with any more of these guys. 5 cost unique Stalker, 2 force pips, 4 health, 1 unit damage, 1 objective damage, and then 2 edge-enabled unit damage. It's a vehicle, capital ship, and he's a member of Death Squadron, which doesn't matter at the moment, but it may. He's got shielding, which is always nice, and he has a bonkers reaction. While this unit is attacking, it gains an edge-enabled objective damage for each out-of-faction unit in the defending player's discard pile. So, depending on the deck you're playing, if you're running a kind of late-game stall-style Navy, and you're on turn 5 or 6, this thing can just one-shot.
Get so much blast, yeah.
It's maybe not so much in some of these Star Destroyer decks that come out the gate on turn 1 or 2 and try and win the game on turn 3. There are probably not too many units in the discard pile for your light side opponent, but in the stally control type of Imperial decks, then this thing's a beast.
Yeah, it depends a bit on the matchup too. Like ideally, they're running a split affiliation Jedi Highlander deck with Falcon,
Yeah.
and then it's just like every single Jedi unit is giving you blast, and you can get that thing easily up to just one-shotting objectives.
Yeah.
But even against a mono Jedi deck, like it's counting the nudges, it'll count 3PO, it'll count Sulan sympathizers.
Yep.
So come near the end of the game, that thing will easily have 3 or 4 blast.
The only thing it's missing, and thank God, I mean, it doesn't do everything, it's not elite. So if you can lock it down and get through its shielding, there's your answer. So hopefully you can stop it striking every turn. But it's, shielding is good.
The other cool thing about that is it gives you, this is now a set sector lockdown with 2 unique Navy units.
Yep.
So that helps with Fist.
Helps a lot with Fist.
Yeah.
We've got another unit, so 3 units in this pod, which is always nice. A 2-cost non-unique Storm Commando. It's Imperial affiliated, 1 Force Pip, 1 health, so he's pretty weak. A Black Blast. It's kind of nice with aggressive Navy. That's the icon they want these days. Character Trooper, reaction after he enters play, discard the top card of a target opponent's deck. Interrupt when he leaves play, do the same. So he's just fueling the abilities and the synergy within this pod. Zed says those cards don't come back. You can't play copies of those cards if the objective's undamaged, and it's fueling the Stalker's ability. And it's a Black Blast.
Can't play copies of them if they're units.
True. But yeah, just mill your opponent. So
yeah.
I wonder if we're ever going to get to the stage now where milling. I've only ever seen a tournament victory via milling once. But
I've almost lost many of games by decking myself. But it's like...
You enter in a different game once you realize you're close to that loss condition.
Yeah.
I have 8 cards left and need to play 2 more turns.
I don't play. I passed my turn.
Okay, so we're going to do this edge battle.
Yep.
I have 6 cards in hand, but I can only bid 1 of them.
Yeah. It becomes a weird space at that point. But 3 units, always good. That's the problem Jedi have. Jedi are amazingly powerful faction, but they have them Jedi draws where you just draw lightsabers and resources for a turn. So having 3 units in a pod helps you curve out a little bit better.
What I find really interesting about these 3 units is we have an officer, a capital ship, and a trooper. So they're like it's kind of set up.
Yeah.
It's ready to go in any tribal Navy deck.
Pretty much.
It kind of is. So it's interesting.
Next card, it's got a resource as well, so it's stacking up to be a very well-rounded pod. This one, Sector Garrison, neutral 1/1 resource. It's limited.
1 for 1 resource.
I hear they're pretty good. Neutral 1 for 1. Enhance your player limited. It's Elrude traded as well, if that will ever matter. Action: focus this enhancement to shuffle a unit from your discard pile back into your deck. So hang on, this is a Sith library. But better, basically.
Yeah, way better.
Way better.
This is really, really good.
Why isn't this a 2/1?
Because Navy does resources.
You have to focus it to get its ability to
True.
Shuffle something back. So, like, if you had to pay 2 for that and then pay another 1 technically to use the ability.
Yeah.
But really, it's just a 1/1. You don't lose anything on the first turn you play. You're probably going to use it as a resource the first couple turns.
Yeah.
But later in the game, say you flop into a sector lockdown and you need to get something out of your discards so that you can play it, or you just want to shuffle back a Palpatine or something, or a big edge card.
Get a 3rd or a 4th Yularen trigger. That seems nice.
Yeah, so that's a potential crazy deck in the future, like 4 Palpatines and Sector Lockdown, and you just keep looping your Palpatines for edge.
Yep.
Maybe throw Yularen in there. I mean, you're going to have, what will that be, then 8 unique Navy units?
You can also shuffle your Imperial Fist back in. Oh, no, it's
units.
It's units.
So, Yularen, but Yularen on its own.
Yularen back, yeah.
That's tasty.
Yeah, you put a Sate in there, and Sate lets you get this back.
There you go.
Yeah, it's not Imperial, is it? It's just a
back.
unit from your discard pile. So it's any unit.
Yep.
Seems good.
Or Palpatine. Ardens, 2 Sates, and Sector Lockdown.
So what else could make this pod pretty rounded and fleshed out? A 0-cost event. So, okay, no requirements for resource match here. 0 cost, it's Imperial. Not that it matters. A 1 pip on the force count. Action, look at the top 3 cards of an opponent's deck, discard 1, place 1 on the bottom of their deck, and return the remaining card to the top. So,
awesome.
Draw control.
That's a lot of control. Yeah.
And again, really good synergy with the rest of the pod in terms of, I happen to see your Yoda. He can go into discard and you can't play him if you've got him in hand now. Enjoy that.
So Andy, talking about the whole discard concept, this with Arden Lin, because I know you're a big fan of Arden.
Arden
right?
is a beast.
So you use Arden already to kind of control what they get off the top of their deck.
Yep.
If you then have these events and this Storm Commando to discard cards, you could do some real crazy stuff with this and Arden together.
Building this deck. That was exactly my first thought. Arden.
Can you target yourself with it, or is it enemy?
With the event, opponents.
Oh, okay. So you can't set up your own Arden.
Nope.
No, but he, like, I always thought that too. Like, when I first played with Arden, I was always using it on myself to try to trigger her. But Andy taught me, like, no, you want to
control what they're getting.
That's the whole reason my regional season 2015 was as successful as it was, because it was the Cruel Interrogations pod. That's, Arden's objective is that on demand every turn.
Yeah.
So, if you Jedi mains, you're not playing your Lukes, you're not playing your Yodas, you're definitely not playing them with this pod, because as soon as I see one in your discard pile, the other one's rendered useless. So that seems good. Again, I think this will find a home. It's a very well-rounded pod with 3 great units at that. A good objective. A free...
Yeah, this will go... Like, it can be a good one of in Navy deck. Yeah. I think you can easily run it in duplicate. I think there's some really cool Sith Navy hybrids that you can do with this deck.
Yeah, it's going to find a home. And, more pods that are closer to this auto-include kind of status is going to make deck building interesting, because you can't auto-include everything now.
Yeah, it's good. It's getting other factions to where Jedi's been for a while, right? Like, Jedi's been in that position where it's like, I have to make choices. And really, Navy is there, right? Like, Navy is now at the point where they need to make choices. And I'd even say that both Sith and Scum are at the need to make choices level.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Rebels need a little bit more, but we've seen some stuff in this that's coming in this cycle, right? They did preview Home 1, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The new beast.
Yeah, they previewed Home 1, and that looks like it's going to help Rebels a ton.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is
getting in a good spot with all the factions, it seems. So speaking of, Tom, do you want to take the last dark side one, and then we'll have a quick break before we go on to the light side?
Yeah, let's do some Sith. Merciless Plans is the name of this, and it's a 5/1, and it says reaction after a mission enters or leaves play, set the balance of the Force to the dark side. I like that.
That's good.
I mean, yeah, I mean,
it's all right. It's all right. It's not the most potent objective text.
Sure, you're true. That's true.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, it's fine. It's a 5/1. There's been worse, but it's not.
I mean, it can be awesome when when they take the Force, goes into your turn, and you're like, and then you play a mission, turn the balance of the Force to the dark side, and rage.
Yeah,
but
rage is good.
Like most of the point, you're taking the Force, but then you still have to win the Force struggle. So
yeah, that's true.
Like
So
it
really
helps when you're kind of in that tie area where
it's really setting you up for things where you want to have the Force. So like rage, like things where you need the Force on your turn. This lets you flip it mid-turn, or with like hallucinations. So something triggers twice.
True.
So
I mean, like, it's cool turn 1 if you play your mission, take the Force, but generally you want to have something committed anyway to keep the Force on your side.
unless your first turn's like a Jabba's Rancor.
Unless your first turn's a Java and you don't want to commit it. And in a heavy seeds environment, sometimes you don't want to commit those guys either. So,
Which, because seeds comes in, may the force be with you. We're going to be in a heavy seeds environment for a long time.
Yeah.
So,
does Light Fight have other objectives with seeds in them?
No, I don't know any. So our first unit here is Bach. He is unique. He costs 3. He has 3 force pips. He has 3 health.
So there we go.
He's a character and a force user with 2 black unit damage. His card text is he's elite, and this unit gains 2 black objective damage and targeted strike while participating in an engagement against a mission. So, yeah, that's pretty good. 3 cost for 3 pips. Elite is good enough to take the force.
Yep.
He has a couple black guns, which is okay. It makes him an okay defender. He's not really attacking in that position. But if you play a mission, this guy is an offensive beast. He has targeted strike with 2 guns and 2 black blasts. Seems really, really strong.
Yeah.
So
It's definitely raising the bar on 3 drops. Holy cow.
Yeah, yes, he is. Yeah, for sure.
Well, think about all 3 pods that we just went through. All 3 of those had fairly good 3-cost mains.
Yep.
So that's pretty great.
Give this guy a lightsaber and go to town.
Yeah, maybe a Sith lightsaber. The second card is another unit called Expendable Scout. Cost 0, 1 force pip, 1 health. Has a white objective damage, and the text says, action, sacrifice this unit to have a player choose and discard 1 card from his hand. Then that player draws 1 card. So, this guy can do a couple different things. First of all, he's free and he has blast, which means if you want to send him in on an attack, hopefully get unopposed, do 2 damage, it's great. If they defend, if he's about to die, you can always sacrifice him and take an action immediately. And now he lets you either cycle a card, right? Because you can use it on yourself. You can use this, discard a card, get a new card, or you can use it on your opponent when after a bunch of conflicts they end their turn with 1 card in their hand, which people tend to do on the light side fairly often.
Yeah.
They have a Falcon,
Or
it's
a
the 1 card.
rejuve or something ridiculous.
Something.
I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, so I mean, for a free unit that can be used offensively, which this pod seems like, Box seems like an offensive machine
Yep.
when there's a mission in play, this guy seems like he's pretty good.
Yeah, very
Cost
versatile.
0.
So versatile.
0. Yep.
It's for me. It's all the blast is nice. It's very good, in fact, and the fact it's 0 is good. But for me, that action is what sells it. You can the number of times in a Sith deck where I need to win an edge battle to close out the game, and my council draws me another Sith library that I just don't care about. That's amazing to get rid of that problem.
Yep.
But the other thing is, and you've mentioned it 2 minutes ago, Tom, I love me some Arden. Bing!
Oh, man.
La 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 la.
Do I avoid paying for her?
So good. Hey, I'm an accountant. I like avoiding costs at all point. So
Yes, this is going to give you another way that you can bring Arden into play, which is
nuts.
pretty amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, I think this guy's all around good. He also gives you the whole, when you're playing a 4-cost main on the first turn and you don't want to commit them because of seeds.
Yep.
Now you have a free unit that has a pip, so you can commit them.
That you can get rid of.
That you can get rid of. So, yeah,
Sweet.
all over that. I think it's great. Our next card, we have an enhancement, which is a Sith lightsaber, and this thing is a beast. Cost 1, has 2 force pips as lightsabers tend to. It is weapon traded, which is awesome.
Yep.
Enhance a force user or force sensitive unit. Enhanced unit gains a black unit damage and a white tactics. Oh man.
It's not
Okay.
unique like Vader's or Mara's. So you can
So,
have
like,
two of
It's
them.
a dual wielder.
Palpatine needs 4 tactics, right?
Well, yeah, just give him 2, and he's got 5.
Going 2, he's up to 5. Yeah,
Or
Spice
yeah.
Blitz.
Stop it, Mick. Stop it,
You
Mick.
rate him.
This with targeted strike, this on Bach or this on Mara is
That's crazy.
Yeah.
ridiculous. And Mick already stated the obvious, synergy between this and Mara and Rage, and this lightsaber is really good.
It's interesting too because normally when I'm putting lightsabers out on units or any kind of weapon enhancement, I like diversifying my threats a bit. I don't really need to get Kyle Katarn, for example, up to 4 guns or 5 guns. Or like in a Sith deck, I don't need to get Mara up to 4 guns with Vader and Mara's lightsaber.
Yeah, but
sometimes it's good.
Like survivors,
depends on the match.
If there's survivors on the board, depends on the match.
Yeah.
But with this Sith lightsaber, I just want to load somebody up and have as many tactics on one guy as possible.
Yeah, win one edge battle and call it a day. Yeah.
Definitely dual wielding with the Sith lightsaber.
Yep. This thing is awesome.
It's 1 cost for it.
1 cost.
Sith has the Force users and Force sensitives. So have we seen other Force sensitives and other affiliations?
I don't.
Thrawn's not Force sensitive.
Put it on. What's his name? The Bounty on 2 looks at top 3.
Oh, you can put it on Zuckuss.
Yep.
Yeah, he's Force sensitive.
Yeah.
You can put it on Yoda. I wouldn't recommend it. But,
Yeah.
Good Yoda.
There you go. Have a tactics again.
It makes core Yoda stronger.
Oh my lord.
Well, you can play the thing that captures core Yoda, and then you put it on him.
True.
All right. We have a fate card here. Secret objective. Is this the first? No,
we've seen this before.
No, this isn't all the.
Yeah, we've seen this. It has 3 pips. It's great. It's especially great with Bach if you want to trick them into thinking like, "Hey, I'm going over to this. I'm gonna go attack your survivors."
No targeted
and then
strike.
it's like,
yeah.
No redirect. So yeah, I mean, I think this objective's great. I think the ability to redirect. Redirecting right now is more important for the late side to get around Tarkin. But specifically with Bach, I think it's interesting. And 3 Force Pip cards, so like
3 Force Pips is huge.
Sure. Take that all day. Our final card is a mission, of course, and it's called Dark Genocide. It costs 0. It has 1 Force Pip, and it has 6 health. And it has a reaction that says, after this mission is completed, name a trait other than character or vehicle. Deal 66 damage to each enemy unit with that trait. Yeah. So this is pretty ridiculous. It's the first mission that we've gotten that's been free,
0.
which is great because it's not going to slow you down.
No tempo loss,
There's no tempo loss. It does take 6 damage to destroy it instead of 5. Nobody cares. No. This is a beast. And it's basically going to be a board wipe, right? Like if you're playing against not always.
I mean, not necessarily wiped, but it's going to take out their most important units.
Well, the key to this thing, again, is, as we've seen with the other pods that we've just had a look at, it's flexibility. So it does, if you're up against, fighter decks, bye. If you're up against Force users, bye.
Wookiees,
Ewoks.
It's just, it can be what you need it to be in that instance, and that's some of the best cards. Because they're
66 damage is so much.
Yeah. Lightsaber deflect that, Luke.
You almost could for like a day.
It's true.
No, I think especially with Bach, I mean, he's attacking that thing all day long, right?
Yeah.
I definitely think that this pod right here is the start of a mission-based deck, right? Like before this pod, I could see, playing some missions, using them where you use them. Han, the Rebel Han, kind of did this for light side a little bit, started making missions a little bit worthwhile, but like this, to me, it's like I see 2 of this and 1 mission command in something.
Yeah.
I don't know what else goes with it yet.
Yeah,
but
this is a much more exciting mission, I think, than the Navy tutor out an officer or trooper,
Yep.
or the destroy all non-affiliated units.
Yep.
Because
Or
most of the time you're in
deal
mono.
1 damage to everything. Like, this is...
But this one's solid, and yeah, you could easily throw in 1 or 2 copies of Assassination Contract. What's that, Mission Command? Into a Sith mission deck.
Yep.
Be pretty sweet.
10 force pips across the whole pod as well, which is pretty good for the old
It's got
count.
cards with 3 dots each. That's really nice.
Said it before, I'll say it again. That's great for Arden.
One of the other things that I love about this, though, is, like, if you look at the cost of all the cards in this pod, too,
Yeah.
it's only 4. Right? There's a 3-cost unit, a 1-cost enhancement, and 2 other cards that are free.
Yeah.
So, like, this means that you're lowering the average cost of the cards in your deck.
Yeah.
That's good. Like, that's really good. I like this a lot.
Your first turn could be Bach, Lightsaber, Expendable Scout, and Dark Genocide. And
Yeah, that is.
it is.
That's
That's
the first turn.
Sacrifice it to a free Arden Lin. Done.
No,
I'm never going to drop this.
No.
I love it.
You commit the Expendable Scout, and then you do that on their turn when they attack into you.
Boom.
yeah.
Drop the microphone. Walk away. Done.
No, you drop your deck. You just like...
See ya.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. 3 amazing and very versatile dark side pods there to start out this force pack. So the light side have got some catching up to do, that's for sure. Okay, so Mick, do you want to kick us off with the first of the 3 light side pods then, with the Jedi?
Yeah, it's a Jedi pod, and I love it. Like this Jedi pod, it is seriously cool and different. I know a lot of people aren't going to really like it, but it's unique. It's got believers in the old ways. So sort of instead of going through the whole pod card by card, the objective itself enforces purity. Then it has 3 sort of lower cost units with blast, a resource, and an event that's basically a mind trick. So this emphasizes a swarm style deck with believers in the old ways. Like your main isn't quite as good, but if you can drop a lot of units out on the board, Jedi do pretty well at winning edge battles, and when you have a whole bunch of believers in the old ways out, that objective damage definitely adds up.
Yeah.
I was trying to build a deck recently with this, and I think I went a little bit overboard. I built a deck that had 8 copies of Believers in the Old Ways. So talk about really being scared of sector lockdown.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, if he kills 1 believer, I lose all 8 of them.
Yep.
And like that ran into problems of like not getting the mains. So I don't think you want 8 believers, and you probably don't even necessarily want like 6 of them. But having chuds with blast when your team's ready to go and you can pump through, it definitely helps you get the dial up there. Luke's speeder bike is interesting. It's got edge 1. After you lose an edge battle, you can remove the unit from the engagement, so you can go in, be like, oh, didn't win that one, back off, go in again, as long as they don't have tactics icons.
Yeah.
And like a bunch of trooper decks are being played around here right now, so like troopers tend not to have tactics. As for purity goes, so the objective says, while this objective is undamaged, increase the cost of each non-neutral out-of-faction card by 1. That makes it really expensive to play out of faction. Like, if you're doing any kind of cool hybrid deck, your main part is looking to be pretty expensive.
Yeah.
But it hits you too, so this really wants to go into a mono Jedi deck. Force Persuasion is a mind trick. Like, this is a mind trick. It only affects characters and creatures. which used to be huge. In a Navy meta, there's a whole bunch of stuff you're not going to hit. So I think like Mind Trick wouldn't be as potent, but if we go back to seeing a bunch of Sith mains or Scum mains, those are all characters. The Rancor can be hit with Force Persuasion. You can persuade that Rancor not to eat you. That's pretty big, and it's going to hit for at least one focus and maybe even two.
Do you think this event has enough keywords?
No.
Force Control, Sense Alter.
Probably not.
I think it's got all of the important ones for. So Affect Mind was a Force Control Sense Alter ability in the old Western games D6 role-playing system.
I loved that role-play system. Oh, man. I had an engineer with a blaster pistol that shot an X-Wing out of the sky just because I kept rolling sixes.
Yep, definitely do that.
Loved it. Man.
We had a Wookiee use a thermal detonated, used a force point,
He was
cranked
fine.
to 12D, and yeah, he survived. Everybody else was dead. No, that's probably...
It had its issues, that's just true, but it was fun.
What? He used the force. His fur glowed adamantium. Yeah, so those keywords are not relevant at all for the game yet, but they are all the appropriate keywords. And that's recognized by people like us who played D6 Star Wars. Okay, so what has me intrigued by this objective set is the fact that it comes with a resource. And a lot of utility pods haven't been coming with resources, which really makes them hard to slot in. But this one does come with a resource. Like, I would like to see the game move more towards, you got your mains, but they don't necessarily have resources. So you got to go and find substitutes for them somewhere. Like, all of the objective sets with a main that has a resource, they're so good. Like, you see Luke and Palpatine and Falcon everywhere. Vader, phenomenal set, doesn't have a resource. I think the counterpoint to Vader was supposed to be core Obi-Wan, and it just turned out that, like, light side, 5-cost Obi-Wan with no resource, not, like, kind of hard to play back in core set environment. You needed some other cards to make it work. So the fact that this one has a resource and a Mind Trick and Blast is pretty useful. It's annoying in a meta where Moment of Triumph just wipes you out. So I think you need to run some protection for that. Yeah. So that's definitely obnoxious. But having a swarm of guys at the end, and then when you start bidding Yodas, is cool. This resource, it's 1-for-1 with an ability, like the Garrison Sector, having a 1-for-1 with ability.
Passive ability.
Passive ability. Each out-of-faction non-fate card in an edge stack loses 1 force icon during the edge battle. This... Like, talk about penalizing out-of-faction decks. This can be huge. If you have 2 of these out, it takes away 2 force icons. I was playing against a guy casually after the tournament over the weekend, my 8 Believers of the Old Way deck, and it was a long, painful game, like playing 8 Believers in the Old Ways can be, when you're like, well, can't win this edge battle, but eventually you get critical mass. And we had an edge battle, and, like, he puts in a bunch of cards. I put in a few cards, and we passed, and he was like, 7. And I'm looking at it, like, yeah, that's 0. None of them had more than 2 dots. It's a 0.
It's a nil point.
Yeah. Did you bid?
They were all out of faction?
They were all out of faction, yeah. Because he was doing... what was he doing? I think he was starting Navy with Imperial Entanglements and then running Scum Droids.
Yeah.
So it's basically everything was out of faction because they didn't have any Navy cards in there.
So the one thing I think will just have to be clarified, but I'm sure the intent of this card is clear. But I thought everything in an edge stack lost all types of traits. It's not even considered a unit whilst it's in an edge stack. It basically just has edge pips. Everything else goes. So there's no such thing as a unit card in an edge stack. There's no such thing as an affiliated card in an edge stack. It's just pips.
Well, so I think the cards still maintain their faction, right? And they still maintain their state of being like fate or not fate, right? Because like Prince's Scheme says you can steal a non-fate card, so
Right.
they need to maintain whether they're fate or non-fate.
Yeah.
And they probably maintain their faction as well. They just lose
Traits, etc.
the unit and that stuff, because that stuff doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, it's not units, is it? It's just any card.
No, it's just
I thought it was units.
So
really
cares
any
about
card.
faction and fate or non-fate.
Which, we'll have to check that, and we'll put a link down below. But yeah, you're probably right there. I know units and traits go, but faction probably doesn't.
So one thing that I don't like about this pod, other than the whole,
Hey, there's a fair amount to not like about it.
other than the whole pod, is that it only has 6 force pits.
Yeah.
So the whole it's good in Jedi because Jedi wins edge battles. It's like, well, when this goes into the deck, Jedi wins a little bit less edge battles.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. Well, a lot
So-
less edge battles. Well, the other thing for me, you've
It
kind of
has a unit with edge 1.
Yeah.
the thing for me, Mick, is you kind of touched upon it. Is
I don't know if like you actually want to run it in duplicate.
yeah,
I mean, it's where it's helping you win edge is this ambush point, right? It's helping you win edge by taking their icons away. So that really just means like in a meta that's a lot of multi-faction, which I mean, seeing Spice Trade, I could see all 3 of the dark side pods that we just talked about be in multi-faction decks, right? Like,
Yeah.
So that's how it's helping you win edge battles is with that resource.
Yeah.
And its existence, I mean, if people are nervous about this card, and that's kind of an annoying thing about this style of objective, is its existence will funnel players into playing mono affiliation. Like, play mono Navy if you're worried about this. It's really good. You can, like, mono Sith with lightsabers now. Like, you'll avoid the headaches from the out of their element. But I think some of the coolest decks are hybrids, so it's kind of annoying to see these style objectives where it's like, well, I don't want to run up against that.
Yeah.
Personally, I
there's
think
the home one coming, and that's going to be.
Personally, I think when that comes out, when Solidarity of Spirit releases, I'm not playing multi-faction anymore.
No.
Like, I know a lot of the people in my local meta like Rebels, they like vehicle stuff, and that will be everywhere. And you can't afford to play multi-faction against that. It's going to be rough. So.
The thing for me with this pod, Mick, and you touched upon it before, is if you're playing this style of deck with the believers, it was eventually you'll hit critical mass and then you go in for the kill. Compared to kind of a Jedi meta at the moment where, if Tom draws Endor Luke and his lightsaber, he's hit critical mass, basically. So
bye-bye, David.
Pop, pop, pop.
Force stasis.
Shit.
Force stasis.
Oh.
But yeah,
he didn't leave for a while.
Yeah.
That's true.
But yeah, that having to wait for a critical mass on turn 3, 4, 5, and dependent on your draw, versus a Jedi mains decks that we have at the moment, where you just draw the main and you've got the tool you need. It's a very different approach to Jedi that most.
It is a very different approach. His approach, like back when you could do swarm and chain out shields with asteroid base. I would have loved this set, but you can no longer do that.
Yeah.
Moment of triumph will
hurts.
Believers. But it comes with force persuasion, so you're looking at a mind trick ability in an objective set with a resource, and that's huge. So I could see it, like, just including one copy of this to hedge against, like, are you playing hybrid? I got an enhancement that penalizes that. Do I have to worry about your job as Rancor? I'm going to force persuade him.
Yeah.
So it'll give you some flexibility, and in addition to that flexibility, you gain chuns with blast. So it helps you close out the game.
Yeah, and now you say the 3 units all with blast. They're edge dependent, sure, but it does help kind of patch over that one of those big Jedi weaknesses of drawing no units.
Right.
So I'm with you, Mick. I probably wouldn't run 2 unless I wanted it to be a Believers deck, but it should help you curve out. They're all low cost units, and as long as you draw 1 and can deploy it, and then put an enhancement on it, it's not a dead turn like some Jedi turns can be. So it's got that going for it. But I can see why a lot of people kind of aren't a fan. So we'll see.
It doesn't bring the gas like the other Jedi pods,
No,
but I think it's perfectly reasonable. And like if this set didn't have a resource, I think it would be unplayable.
Yeah. It just goes against the grain of the current big swinging Jedi mains. As soon as we get our head around a different way of building Jedi, we just need to open our minds, I guess. Anything else on the Jedi before we move on? No.
It's Endor traded.
Endor. So hello, Han.
But it penalizes mixing affiliations, so I don't think it plays well with Endor Han.
True. Damn it.
That's annoying.
Yeah. Well, it's the Endor Cycle, so maybe there'll be more Endor shenanigans and keyword manipulation that coming down the pipeline. You never know.
Or later in this pack.
So, speaking of, let's move on to the yellow cards. The Smugglers and Spies 5/1 Secret Weapons. It's Endor traded, so there we go. Whilst objective is undamaged, Smuggler vehicle units you control cannot be targeted by enemy card effects. So, it's another one. This is a bit like...
no more warning shots.
Heroes of the Rebellion type vehicles not being targetable.
For your heavy warning shot meta.
But yeah.
At our last tournament, I heard from like 3 tables down somebody be like, "Warning shot."
What does that do? Leia's command. What does that card do?
I have no idea. Yeah. Don't bring that up.
But it's kind of steering us down. It's not just fighters; it's any vehicle, so it can be, your speeder tanks, etc. So there's attack pattern delta decks.
Smuggler, right?
Oh yeah, smuggler. So it's any smuggler vehicle. So, well, it's not lighting the world on fire, but it's one of those nice abilities that can put a stop to your opponent's plans if they can't.
Can't force lightning the Falcon.
Yeah.
So go for unopposed.
Seems good. Lady Luck. There's a few out there. So it's got a few units in it, and the first one is a unique Tidarium. The shuttle, 3 cost, 2 force pips, 2 health, 2 white tactics. My, loving that.
Tactics are good.
Tactics are good. Edge X, where X is the number of enemy units participating in this engagement. That seems not bad, and probably, I think this interrupt is nuts in the meta at the moment. When this unit is destroyed, decrease the Death Star dial by 1 to a minimum of 0 permanently. So our meta over here in the UK is the turn 3 Star Destroyer, win the game, don't give the light side a third turn deck. And that's because they can Empire Strikes Back, destroy 3 objectives, game over. You put this unit on the board and suddenly that's a whole lot more difficult. And a bit of a counter to that kind of style of play. So, and 2 tactics.
Well, it gives the light side a way of manipulating the Death Star dial. That's not the nudge, right? Like, because the nudge is also really good against Navy because they don't have a ton of ways of getting rid of it. I mean, like the Stormtrooper assault teams can target and strike them, and that's usually how they're handling it right now.
Yeah.
But this is great, and it's also great because this is a beast of a unit that Darkseid's going to want to kill. If you don't kill this or lock it down, you're going to have a bad time.
Yeah.
So
2 tactics on an edge-enabled unit. That's nuts.
Edge X.
Yeah.
Jinx.
This is also that edge works on both offense and defense, right? So they send some big attack of like 5 units, 10 units at you to finish the game, like it happens sometimes near the end. Like, that's a lot harder to do against Edge 5 with 2 tactics. So,
yep.
This guy's going to be really good.
Question, on the dark side, kind of counters to that. Best that credits can buy, does that only stop reactions, or is it any triggered ability? I think it's any triggered ability, isn't it?
Best that credits can buy...
The
objective itself.
Yes, yeah.
Because I was thinking the Virago. How does that work with the Virago thing? Because you're not stealing like the Edge. I think has been ruled where you're stealing each copy of Edge 1 and they add up. So if something has like edge 2, you would steal edge 1, or do you steal edge 2?
I think you steal edge 2. It's been a while since...
2?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe you do steal edge X?
Yep. Are you looking it up, Tom?
I'm looking at the objective. Damaged. Each enemy damaged vehicle cannot trigger its abilities.
So yeah, interrupt.
So that would be triggered at the end.
The interrupt would be triggered.
X. Oh, the interrupt, yeah. And the edge, because that triggers at the end of the edge.
Only if it's damaged.
It's weird, because this is when this unit is destroyed. It has to be damaged when it's destroyed.
Yeah. So you can
Unless
always turn off the interrupt. You might not always be able to turn off the edge.
Unless it got like force lightning or something.
Hmm.
It wouldn't be damaged in that case.
True.
But you just wouldn't force lightning this ever.
So I want to see more instances of the Virago and that pod in play, because that is a lot of counters to. I've seen it ruin the Falcon, so it'd be nice to see that see the table a bit more. So we'll move quickly on. I don't want to spend too long. 2 cost stolen speeder bike, non-unique, 1 force pip, 2 health, a gun and a blast, so both edge enabled. Vehicle speeder. Reaction: after this unit is focused to strike as an attacker, instead of resolving its combat icons, place a focus token on the engaged objective. Resource lock. Limit once per phase.
So if you lose the edge battle, you're like, well...
Not doing any damage anyway.
Strike for locking this down.
Yep. That seems okay.
Pretty ridiculous. It's really good.
Yep. Next one, 3 cost, another vehicle. So 3 vehicles in this pod. 3 cost stolen ATST. It's a smuggler, no force pips. 3 health, a black unit and a black objective damage. Vehicle walker. Whilst this unit is ready, it cannot be affected by enemy combat icons. Okay. That's
so it's getting through.
That's getting through. It's a TIE Phantom with Chewie in it. I like it.
It's pretty good.
It doesn't care about the edge either. So just wander into an engagement, pass. Happy swinging.
Yeah, you can do... Like, you want to protect this thing. You can put astromech droids on it so that you're swinging for at least 2 guns and 2 blast. You can Echo Caverns, give it more icons.
Echo Caverns. Yeah, it's a good unit. Versatile as well. On the offense and the defense, it can't be targeted. So, very nice.
I like it.
Next card, 1 cost event, 1 force pip, hiding among enemies. Great artwork. Action. Place 1 shield on a target smuggler vehicle unit, then discard 1 card at random from an opponent's hand.
Sure.
That seems good. Again, the number of times someone's just sitting on a Palpatine or a Force Lightning to kind of help with the defense. Just get rid of that card and put a shield on yours as well.
That's true, yeah. Generally, I would use this before the edge battle. That's kind of important, so they have fewer cards. But I guess you could do it like potentially after an edge battle, see what they're saving.
Yeah, and get rid of it.
Like,
pitch it.
Yeah. Let's get rid of that Force Lightning you were going to zap me with, the Palpatine that you're saving to play next turn.
And we round out with a target, which so there's a lot of these units want to be attacking. The ATST is going to get its damage off. The speeder bike gets to lock down resources, and the Tidarium gets edge ridiculous.
So good.
So this is a great little answer, I think, to Navy at the moment. It's got tactics, which some Navy builds struggle against. It's got units that you want to take off the board, but they've got edge X and tactics, and interrupts when they leave. I like this pod. I don't think it's finding its way into every deck like most of the dark side cards we've just seen, but
I think this is going to be
it helps get
the start to smuggler vehicles making its way back into the meta.
Definitely, it makes yellow cards. It brings them up a bit to where they need to be.
This is getting you to the point where you might not have to rely. Like, there's been some people since the errata changes and stuff to the Pilot Han pod that have been playing, vehicle decks that are Rebel and Smuggler, this pod probably gets you to the point where you can drop that Rebel and go mono if you decide you want to. So,
Can you still give up defensive Yavin 4 though?
What?
So good. Giving up defensive Yavin 4.
I mean, can you? Yes. Do you want to?
No.
No.
Yeah.
It's promo.
But yeah,
It's good.
Good,
It's good.
good yellow cards. It's always nice to see. So
For sure.
happy with them. Top.
Talk about this last pod.
Go for it, Tomo.
Yeah.
All right. We have a neutral pod for the light side called Courage of the Tribe. It is Endor traded. It is a 5/1. It is limit 1 per objective deck, and it has a reaction that says after you refresh, remove 1 focus token from a target Ewok unit. So, helps you not get your units locked down with part of the tribe that we've seen earlier in the cycle. It helps you get one of your big mains not locked down. So, that's pretty good.
Yep.
Our first main here is Chief Chirpa. Costs 4, 3 health, 2 force pips. Has a black unit damage, black objective damage, and a white tactics. He's a character Ewok. He has a resource, which is always interesting because I don't necessarily want to use this guy as a resource if I paid 4 for him, but it's an option.
Yep.
He has an ability that says each other friendly Ewok unit gains 1 damage capacity, which, again, it's ridiculous because you have a bunch of 1 and 2 health Ewoks running around. Now you have a bunch of 2 or 3 health Ewoks running around, which is great. But you also have things like Leia. And putting part of the tribe on Leia and now her having 3 health instead of 2 makes her a lot more survivable. Or you play this with core Yoda, and who only has 2 health, but then you throw part of the tribe on him, and now he has 3 health and more icons because it's an enhancement. So this guy's really going to beef up all your units. This is really going to help the Swarm deck out, which we all know Mick loves. And that's not all. He also has a reaction that says, after a phase begins, focus an Ewok unit you control to draw 1 card. That is ridiculous. That doesn't even say once per turn. I mean, it's once
after a phase begins. There's only so many phases.
Yeah.
Yeah, only so many phases. I will backhand you. This is...
It's not useful during draw phase. Oh, their draw phase it is.
Oh god, you can do it in their turn.
You could
well.
do
Oh
it.
my God.
It's not.
Balance phase,
not-
draw a card. Draw a card. I have no cards in hand. Suddenly I have 4 cards in hand.
It's not bad during your draw phase.
Yeah. You go into deploy, you can draw an additional card. You go into conflict, you can draw an additional card for edge.
It's ridiculous.
My favourite thing about this card, gentlemen, is that one turn, that one game, and it'll be in like the finals of a Worlds someday, where
next year when
Tarkin just goes.
No, Andy, 2016.
True, but it'll be where Tarkin just looks at the opposing board and goes, "I'll blank Chirpa," and all your Ewoks die.
Tarkin's just going to cast Moment of Triumph. That doesn't.
Well, yeah, that too, but
yeah, for sure. All right, so now we have 2 of this next unit, which is good because that means we have 3 units. But I love this unit. It's Ewok Horde, costs 7.
Wow.
With 4 health, 1 force pip, with 2 black guns, a black blast, a white gun, and a white blast. It is character Ewok traded, and it says reduce the cost of this unit by 1 to a minimum of 3 for each Ewok unit you control.
Whew.
So, I was always a big fan of freeholders. I loved freeholders. I thought that, they were obviously stupid broken when they came out. But even when the restriction happened, I was still more of a fan of freeholders than Dash.
Yeah.
I've only recently started really giving Dash the credit he deserves. He's really good, but
it's a choice.
it's a choice though. But this card's great. This kind of is close to probably what freeholders should have been, some kind of reduced cost with the attachment of a minimum. But still, how quickly will most Ewok decks have 4 Ewoks in play so that this thing costs 3? I would say by the beginning of your 3rd turn, you'll almost always have 4 Ewoks. And it's a lot of icons. It's a lot of icons.
Yep.
I'm a big fan of that unit. Then we have a resource. It is a 2/1. It is unique, but the pod's also unique, so you're only going to have one of them in your deck. It's called Bright Tree Village. It is not limited. It has 1 force pip. It says, enhance your play area. Each Ewok unit you control, or in your edge stack, gains 1 force icon. So, you want to lock down the force. Now you have Chirpa with 2. Now he has 3.
Mm.
Or you throw part of the tribe on that Yoda that I was talking about earlier, and he has 6 instead of 5. Pretty ridiculous. But also the fact that all of these pretty bad 1 pip Ewoks in your edge stacks now become 2 pip Ewoks in your edge stacks, which is crazy. Now, this is a one-of, so you're not going to see it every game. You probably won't see it early often. But I think when you do, this is one of the best 2/1 passives I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
It will be really, really good. And then
We need more Ewoks.
And then finally, we have a new Fate card called Battle of Endor. Battle of Endor will resolve in the 9th position of the Fate stack resolution. It has 1 force pip to start, and it reads, for this edge battle, this card gains +1 force icons to a maximum of 3 for each Endor objective or enhancement in play. So the Bright Tree Village is Endor traded. But because it says each, it's not each friendly. If your opponent's playing Endor, which, hey, it's the Endor Cycle, they probably will be, or if you have Endor missions in play, which the other Ewok pod plays, and missions are considered objectives, this thing will fairly consistently be 4 pips, which is pretty awesome. So I think this is a really good one of in an Ewok deck. We've already seen. I think there was an Ewok deck that took down a store championship somewhere in the U.S. already, right?
Yep.
I think this just makes it better. So
yeah, this list kind of writes itself almost now.
Using native support to double strike with like Ewok hordes or making like Luke or Yoda and Ewok and double striking with them is pretty good.
Yep. Obviously this doesn't fit like the way all the dark side pods we said fit into a bunch of different deck lists. This kind of fits into a very specific deck list, but it's probably a pretty viable deck list.
So yeah, two Endor Lukes, 2 Yodas, and then a bunch of Ewoks seems like it could be a good deck.
Or just Chewbacca and a bunch of Ewoks. Fuzzy Wuzzy deck.
Fuzzy Wuzzies.
Fuzzy. I agree.
So yeah, an amazing force pack, I think. And it's only the second of the cycle. And
it's got cool stuff.
Cool stuff across the board. Doing everything for the dark side. Well, I think the dark side comes out on top for me in this pack.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah. There's more. My mind's been afire with deck building possibilities for dark side. Light side's been a little bit tougher, but I'm looking at the Tiderium.
Yes, yeah, me too. I think again
and that can go in a number of different style builds too.
Yeah, and that slowing the dial down against these Rush Navy decks with the Tiderium seems like it could be an option. So I'm itching to get my hands on the pack and see if it works. As I hope you guys are. Well, you've got it already. So,
when are you guys supposed to get it?
I think it's in stores now. In hit today. Mick, you're mean. But I just need to get down to the store.
Stormtrooper head.
Did you guys get the whole change to street dates that we got over here? Was that an NA thing?
Oh, the announcements for street dates. I think it's worldwide, but I don't know how much impact it's had to us over here in terms of tournaments.
Well, I mean, you guys didn't get the pack on the street dates.
No. I think it was a distributor problem, I think, so we've got...
I didn't know if you guys got different street dates than we did, or if street dates just didn't happen over there.
I think with this pack, it's just been delayed by a couple of days by the distributor, if I'm correct.
My the guy that orders everything at our local store was telling me that street dates should make things better most of the time, but that at least the distributor he works with, they will actually only send him the packs so that they arrive on the street date. So if things get delayed somehow, or if he doesn't order in a way where he gets an order on the street date, because they're running a bigger business than just FFG products, right? So he normally orders things on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So if they released a thing that the street date was Friday, we would get things later or something, but so it's not, I don't think it's a perfect system yet. It's also only the first pack that they've gone with street dates so far. But I'm interested to see how that continues.
Yep.
It was kind of cool to show up at FFG and there was, Conquest, Throne, Star Wars, Netrunner. That's all the packs.
Yeah.
I did like the fact that all the packs came out at once, although in a world where you play multiple games, right? Because most of the people I know do play multiple games. I would almost rather the packs be staggered, because when a pack comes out, it's kind of like giving that game more
a shot in the arm, and
it's like
that's
okay,
what you want to go and try and do.
Yeah. So if they were staggered in a way where over their 4 LCGs they came out every week, you got a different pack for a different game, then it's I get a pack. Sweet, I'm making a bunch of decks. I'm going to play Star Wars this week. Next week, I get a Netrunner pack, make a bunch of Netrunner decks, go play Netrunner.
Yeah. I think it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, because that's great for us, Tom, who are down at the store every week, and we can pick up the Star Wars pack and then the Thrones pack and then whatever. But there's plenty of people here that I know don't play in a store, and they come in once to pick up whatever they can for a couple of months.
That's their problem.
Community member Tom Malucci, world champion, the people's champion.
The people's champion.
No, the people's champion.
But I think there's plenty of people who probably would enjoy just being able to come in on a Tuesday and pick everything up.
Those are the people, Andy, that we need to get into the store.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
We need those people. That's my biggest question to the people that run the store I go to is when I come in and I know that there was 3 core boxes on the shelf and I come in and there's only one, my first question to them is who sold the other 2 core boxes? Who bought them? And do they know about Monday nights? Right? Because sometimes people buy these games and they have, they're married and they play with their spouse and that's it, right?
Yeah.
But they don't know about the communities that are out there that they can join and play. And, but yeah, I mean, I understand, and I was obviously mostly kidding about not caring about those people. But in general,
no, he wasn't.
A little bit. I hate you both.
People's champion.
Caught it.
Oh yeah, that was quick. Jesus,
Yeah,
that was
right
4,000 miles.
He's gained special powers with his beard.
I have.
Well,
anyway,
yeah, the new alliances pack, thumbs up, I think, across the board. So we'll close the episode out now with our per episode discussion topic. And Mick, this was a question you brought to the table. So do you want to hit us with it?
Yeah, so this episode is titled Out of Their Element, because they brought up a topic of out of book. And I was a little bit surprised to hear that you were not familiar with this expression.
Nope.
Tom, you heard this expression, out of book?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, okay. So I'm not a competitive chess player, so I may be getting some of these details wrong. But in competitive chess, there's an expression called out of book. And I guess the legend is there was some in the vault of the Kremlin deep underground. There's this manuscript of all recorded chess tournaments dating back to 500 BC.
Okay.
And in the top level competitive play, so they could go and look at these manuscripts in the book and see what style game people were playing. and how the Ages had learned to counter that game. So if these Russian masters were going up against a player who preferred a certain kind of opening, they could then go and see, what other games had been played with that opening, how people had responded, and craft a strategy for it.
Yeah.
Eventually, this all became open, and I think the book is now available online. But it continues to be updated with every single competitive game of chess. And if you're watching a competitive game of chess, they'll make their first move and it will say, like 157,000 games. And that says that in all recorded chess competitive history, there have been 157,000 games that have had this board state as the first move. And then the second player will respond and it'll go down to like 89,000 games. And so on and so forth. So eventually it dwindles, and eventually a move is made that no other board state in competitive chess history has reached, and at that point you are out of book. And you are on your own, and you can only rely on what nobody has reached that point, or there's no recorded history of it.
So it's at that point that
you're playing
out of your element.
You are out of book, you are out of your element, right? So what I find interesting in Star Wars, because there's definitely, like, when you're playing in a Worlds or Nationals meta and playing against the same decks over and over, and it just feels that one faction is incredibly strong, so all of your games start looking the same. The game can feel a bit stale, and you're just prepping against the same thing over and over. It's like, well, I just keep going back to... Like, I tried this deck, but I just keep going back to the same thing over and over and over again. And I find that, like, even if that's what you perceive the meta to be, you're going to, at some point in tournament play, and this is why I find the game so interesting, you will reach a point at a tournament where you are out of book, and you've never been in this situation before. And that is so interesting for me.
Definitely. I think... I can speak to this. I've run up against this situation quite recently, Mick, where we've managed to attract a couple of new players to our meta up here in the north of England. And just by virtue of them effectively never having seen the book, they're not running the standard decks that I'm used to playing against you two, against John Paul, Anton, Neil. They just come up with crazy decks that the deck has never been built before, let alone the board state. How, for me, the interesting thing is, how do I then respond to that?
Exactly, yeah.
Because I probably have a good idea about what's in your deck, but how to actually
you haven't played
play
that
it.
game before.
Yeah.
You haven't played against that strategy.
So it's that's, as you say, that's what keeps the game fresh for me. Having new players helps, but then innately they bring to the scene crazy decks that turn everyone's head.
And there's definitely sort of an analysis paralysis that can happen too when you encounter those new situations.
Yeah.
So going into a major tournament when you're going to be playing like 5, 6, last Worlds was 7 rounds. That's a lot of games. It's 14 games during Swiss. And as much prep as you do, you can know your deck inside and out. You can know the meta, like the opposing decks inside and out. And even in those games where your deck, but like the back of your hand, the exact build they're running, just the combination of cards that can show up, like you're basically guaranteed to enter a board state at some point during the tournament never seen before.
Yeah.
And then how do you respond to that? So just you get in as much practice as you can to be familiar with general board states and the risk associated with different attacks and different blocks so that you can play a speedy game. Because like getting in 2 games in 70 minutes, particularly when you have the stakes of Worlds, that can be tough. And if you're analyzing every single move, like you're
going to run out of time.
you're not
You're
you're
gonna go
going
to
to
time.
run out. So yeah, you'll go to time, but you will encounter that new state, and then when that happens, it's how do you navigate that new field,
Yeah.
which is so
And
interesting.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, Mick. Is it's not no one's ever going to be able to know the perfect move in all possible board states and game states because there's I'm going to say infinite, even though as a physicist I know that's not true. But it's for me it's around the experienced players knowing that. I've never encountered this situation before, but I know that's probably his deck.
Develop an intuition.
It's an insight, isn't it? Yeah, it's that general understanding of knowing when to attack and when to hold back and when to commit and when to not to different elements of the game. Even though you've never come up against that specific instance before. I know, for example, that like the store championships that I didn't get to over this last weekend here in the UK, there was a crazy deck that I don't think I've ever seen built before. It was a Vima Deboda deck with smugglers, I think, with Dash. That
so that actually sounds like the article that Tyler wrote an article on.
okay.
What is it? Team Sandcrawler. And because the last
that deck,
the last tournament that I went to, somebody was also playing that deck. I'm looking for the article right now to see if I can find it. It was really interesting. It was Vima. It was hold on, where is it? I'm on the article. Yeah, it's Vima, May the Force Yoda, Dash, Falcon, and impersonating a deity. And is that the?
That was that seems familiar. As again, I wasn't there. I just heard reports, but yeah.
Oh yeah, so I played against that deck in a tournament the other day, and it was like the first turn of the game. I was playing like an Iggy list, and the guy plays harassment, and I have all 4 cost units in my hand, so I can play. I literally could not play a unit the first turn. So his first turn was dash, swing, blow up an objective. I have 6 cards in hand.
Ouch.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that it's necessarily a great deck. It has 4 seeds in it, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I've got to give a shout out to one of these newer players in the meta up here, Bobby. He's clearly a very experienced card game player. I think he's come from Magic and the different LCGs, but his first foray into Star Wars properly. And again, he just ripped the book up completely and just threw a deck at me that I've never played before. And again, he just kind of looked at it and gone, I'm a huge Dark Forces fan. I like Kyle. I like Jan Ors. How do they work together? Oh, they like bouncing units in and out of play, both of them. So he built 2 Kyle, 2 Jan Ors, 2 Rebel Han to go tutor for cards, 2 Akbars, because I think he had an Akbar come into play.
Hoth Rebel
Han.
Not new Rebel.
No, Hoth Rebel Han. So 2 Kyle, 2 Jan, 2 Hoth Han, 2 Akbar, and he had Akbar trigger 4 or 5 times in a single game because he just kept bouncing in and out.
So you attack with Jan.
Yeah, and 2 Leia. 2
strike,
Leia.
Use her reaction, bounce something, strike with her again. Heroes and Legends her.
Just
strike, bounce something, strike with Jan again.
So many tricks, but just even simple things like Fleet Command Center. Like you can remove all the focus off Fleet Command Center through a couple of different card effects, through the objectives when you sacrifice a unit, or through Rebel Layer. Just nuts. There's so many triggers that I had to keep track of as a dark side player that I have no idea how Bobby did it as a fairly new Star Wars player. But even I'd struggle to keep on.
Is bouncing X-Wing Escort good in a capital ship meta?
Could be. It's an answer. You know, there's plenty of little vehicles that I'd get rid of before my Star Destroyers. But
yeah, but eventually they're gone.
True. But yeah, if you've not played that, there's so many triggers to remember. It's a fun deck to play. Go and recommend building it. Like I say, 2 Akbar, 2 Core Leia, 2 Hoth Han, 2 Jan, and 2 Jedi Kyle. Well, 2 Kyles. It's the only Kyle at the moment. Good work, Bobby. So for putting me firmly into an out of book situation, got to give you props for that. So I don't know if any other thoughts on the out of book. I mean, Tom, how do you deal with that? Do you come up against it fairly regularly, or?
I mean, yeah, we have a bunch of new players since Worlds, and pretty much everybody's been, especially with the new packs coming out, people are digging out old cards, new cards, putting random combinations together, and like Mick said, I think you just play based on the general knowledge of you know, they have n number of units, n number of icons. You know, one of the things that makes it slightly easier is that you have to look at the combinations of icons, and you know, I know that they might have 3 unit damage, but it's on 3 different units, so I'll get to strike with this thing. Yeah. But you learn these things, and there's so many. Like, I know you said there's not infinite combinations in Star Wars,
but effectively,
but effectively with deck design on both sides and card draw and all these things, there really is, I wouldn't even say, I mean, I understand where the concept can apply here, but I wouldn't even say there is ever a in the book type situation. You know what I mean? Maybe it's okay, first turn Mara, that's in the
turn
book.
One's mostly in the book for your deck. But...
Second turn, play Luke. Don't attack into Mara. That's not part of the book, Tyler. It's bad.
Shots fired! Oh my god!
I knew Mick would love it.
Man.
So then Mick pulled out the book at Worlds this year and was like, "Bam! First turn Mara," and Tyler had a fit. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. So I mean,
worth it just playing against Tyler again.
Even in the meta where it's Worlds based and we know what we know, you might have a first turn or two of what is considered in the book, but you have to use that knowledge constantly. But yeah, I love some of these ridiculous decks that show up at game night kits and or just open play nights, and you know, you sit down to play somebody and they play that the Citadel Inquisitor pod. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I played somebody that was using that the other day, and I never even gave that thing a chance. You know, but
it's like our game, Nick, as well. It's how the hell do I deal with triple Rancor? The book doesn't tell me how to deal with triple Rancor.
No, it doesn't.
The book says discard Atari training, but actually, maybe I need Atari training on my Luke this turn. But for me,
that was another thing, is realizing that I actually want you to have Ataru training and maybe be able to trigger it so I can chain react, and that that's something that you haven't practiced or seen. But that's the playing it's new or really off the wall wacky shadow decks, as we call them around here. But there's still the situation too with the tried and true, the deck that you bring to Worlds and the meta matchup that you've trained a bunch. You find yourself, the first couple turns play very standard, but eventually you get into a kind of a new situation that you haven't necessarily solved, so you got to work to it the first time. And didn't you have something like that with Force Rejuve wins the game, Tom?
Oh yeah, there was a game against Matt Davey in the finals where I think it was one of those I was very focused on my plan, which was swing with Luke, win the edge battle, strike, let him strike, rejuve, strike again, win. Right, that was, I needed 2 strikes out of Luke, and I didn't have his lightsaber or another enhancement, and I attacked, and I lost the edge battle, which was an edge battle that I was fairly confident I was going to win. So there was something...
that always throws you then. So your whole plan was
your overconfidence is your weakness.
Force Rejuve Luke, you get the blast, you got the game, right?
Yeah, so something happened. I don't remember I don't know if he twisted or what, but I didn't win the edge battle. But I still had the Rejuve in hand, but I strike, and I'm well, I'm only striking for 1 blast now. And a Rejuve's not enough. And it was really funny because Davey actually said to me, after I do my strike, he says, well, if you have the rejuve, you win. And I'm like, I look at him, I'm like,
Huh?
so I had to stare at the board state for a little while, and I almost basically passed because I was like, I don't see it, and it ended up being Ron. I had Kuran on the board, and he was at maximum damage. If I force rejuve him instead, he just soaks up the damage and bounces. It gets me my extra 2 damage that I needed. I just didn't see it because I was.
So lesson learned.
Yeah, you get focused on one plan and then one wrench in there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Don't tell your opponent that they win.
Yeah. Does he see it? Does he see it? Does he see it? Does he see it? But that's a very late game out of book scenario. I like the now that you've brought it up and had it in my head for a few days, Mick. I think out of book is to an extent it's very personal to each player. Like each player will have a different book almost.
Oh, yeah.
Because
out of your book.
The first instance is what objective do I discard of my 4, and what hands do I kind of mulligan, and what am I looking for? And each player's got a very different style on what they're looking for on a turn 1, even though the community might say
Yoda, you seek Yoda.
You seek Yoda, protect, done, pass the
turn.
turn.
That's what I look for.
But it's interesting how many opportunities there are to screw up, and I think that's interesting.
That is one of the best parts about this game, and it's not just how many opportunities there are to screw up; it's how many opportunities there are to gain little advantages, right? Like,
don't just sacrifice the ISB liaison attack.
Yeah, really just using the timing windows to their maximum effect.
Yeah, that is one of the things that when I started playing this game, I learned, and it was ridiculous. Where it was like one of the first times I played, it was like, well, I have these 2 units I attack, and I strike with one before the other one, which literally changes the outcome of the fight. If I had striked with the other one first, and that's such a simple scenario that happens every game. You're striking with multiple units, you have to choose what order to do them in. Yeah. But then there's these more and more complicated scenarios where, like you play a liaison, like unless you need that card right this second, like commit that guy so you can take the force, so you get something else out of him, or throw an attack in so they have to commit a blocker and.
Just get value wherever you can.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think there's a lot more complexity to just the number of variables that immediately isn't apparent to the new player. It's like where you shield, where you declare an engagement, what cards you don't deploy so that you have them in an edge.
When you want to win an edge
when
battle.
You want,
when you want to optionally discard cards during your draw phase. The answer is always. Technically,
it's like 98.
98, yeah, 98%. But it's amazing because like I was teaching a new player the other day, and he drew a card. Well, I wasn't teaching; somebody else was teaching the new player, but I had like just walked in, so I was sitting down at the table at the time, and the guy was explaining how to play, and he was like, "Do you want to discard a card?" And the guy was like, "No, I'm good." And I was like, "No, you're not. Hold on." So I walked over behind him, and I'm looking at his cards, and I say, "Okay, what are you going to play this turn?" And he takes like 2 cards, and he puts them down, so he's holding 4 cards. Yeah. And I'm like, "Okay, these 3 cards are good for edge, but this last card sucks for edge, right? What card is it? Shien Training. You're not going to play it this turn. Yeah. He's probably not going to... What?
Good card.
Yeah, it's a great card, but he's not playing it this turn, and... I think the unit he was going to play that turn, like I think he was planning on playing 2 chuds because he didn't have a main. So it's like you don't really want to put it on one of those chuds next turn. So it's like you're not going to get the value out of that card. Discard it, right? It has 1 pip. It's not great for edge. Discard it. He discards it, draws Yoda, completely changes his first turn, goes on to win this game, and the guy who he's playing against was pissed because he's like blah, 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 blah. He's like, he's getting beat by this guy that just learned how to play. And I look at the guy and I'm like, dude, you're making world champion choices over there. He just big smile. But no, like that's the kind of thing. It's you discard something like Shien Training that's not an obvious discard. That card is amazing. But if I'm not playing it this turn, and I'm not playing a unit that I'd want to put it on this turn, which means I'm not playing it next turn. Yep. I don't want to have a Xian Trainin sitting in my hand for 3 turns.
Yeah, and I think that's really one of the things that makes the Star Wars LCG different than all the other card games is you don't want to be sitting on your cards.
Yeah,
and it's tough to let go of good cards.
It's the only one of the LCGs where you draw up your hand size, right? So like Netrunner, you get 3 or 4 clicks, you click for a card. Thrones, you get 2, right? That's it. You might get some more from effects, but you get 2 cards a turn. Conquest, I don't know, you get 2 or 3 depending on who you are.
We love you, Conquest community. Don't kill us. Don't kill us. Kill him. Him. Did
you point at Mick for a second?
No, I pointed it. Like, on Skype, you're here. On the council, you're there.
Nice. But yeah, no. So, but every other game, you get like a fixed amount of cards, or you get an action that you can spend to get a card if you want. Yeah. This game, it's all about cycling through your cards, right? Like knowing when should I play a card, when should I hold a card, when should I edge it. You know, like a lot of times, you actually will keep cards for your opponent's turn that you're planning on using for edge battles. But, like, that's where your opponent can put you in a worse position if they don't attack into you. Now you don't have a window to use those cards, and now you're stuck with a bunch of cards you don't want to have. You know, so it's like the balance of, like, when you use your cards and when you optionally discard them, that's one of the most important factors in this game. So, yeah. Optionally discard cards, even if it doesn't always seem right. You know, it's like Mick said, it's at least on the first turn, it's like a 98% chance.
You have
Later
to be in a very, very narrow, specific situation where like every card is basically perfect. So discarding it would just weaken you to a point where it's not worth digging for the better cards.
So like later in the game though, like if you start a turn with like 4 to 6 cards in hand, there's probably something there you can discard. But if it's late in the game and you have 1 card in his hand, it's Yoda, obviously you're not discarding, right? Like so it depends on the turn, but like specifically first turn, find a card in your hand that you can discard. And even it's actually funny that we're talking about this because I've obviously gone back and watched my Worlds video a couple times, right?
Yeah.
And on the first turn of the final game in Worlds, I pause the video and I look at my hand, and I noticed that I didn't discard anything, right? So I pause the video, I look at my hand, I'm like, what am I going to play? And there's a Twi'lek Loyalist that I'm like, there's no way I'm playing that first turn. Why don't I discard that card? And I just made a note of it. I was like, should have discarded that. The second turn, I discard it. So I'm like, I could have been 1 card further in the deck. And that's that like little opportunity
learning point. Yeah.
Places where, you know, it might not hurt you. You might still win the game.
Yeah. I realized I made a mistake when I was playing against Josh Johnson in our game because I got a bunch of cards back from blowing up one of his objectives. So I'm set to probably win the game blowing up objectives.
Yep.
But I play I haven't seen Asteroid Base yet, but one of the cards I get back is Force Barrier. So I Force Barrier before draw to try to get deeper in the deck. Yeah. And I do hit one of the Asteroid Bases. So I play the Asteroid Base, and it's just like go in with everything, shields galore. I actually made a mistake because I was so excited that I realized that what I needed to do was, because I was chaining out all the shields for Blast, I needed to chain a bunch of shields out before declaring the attack.
Oh, and then go in and get shields.
And then when I do the attack, I get more shields. So I messed that up.
This was last year.
Yeah, this was the year when you could do that.
It turned out well in the end, mate.
I didn't play against Josh
this
year.
Okay.
Except in Thrones. We played against each other in Thrones.
All's well that ends well, Mick.
And I played a Jedi training deck against his droids deck.
So you could have gained a bunch of blast and then used the shield and keyword to get more shields.
Yeah. And that would be more blast.
Super dead Death Star.
Yep.
Well,
but yeah,
out of book. I think even if there is a book that's been written, I think the more often we are out of book, I think is only a good thing for me, really, because it means the meta's fresh and
you're always going to encounter new situations.
Imagine if somebody tried to write that book for Star Wars.
I keep thinking, have you guys ever seen Futurama?
Not all.
God, there's a hilarious character called Zap Brannigan who has a book called Zap Brannigan's Big Book of War. That's go look it up. That's funny. But
I'll check it
yeah,
out,
man. So out of book, yeah, it's interesting. Thank you for bringing that to the table, Mick. I haven't heard that before, so it's a good discussion point for sure. And I think that brings us to the end of this episode, guys. So, any closing thoughts? Tom, we'll leave it for you to kick off. Anyone say hi to? Any new players? Any events to promote?
We have a bunch of new players. Most of them actually have been coming in for Thrones or Netrunner, but there's a bunch of people. We've had a bunch of Star Wars events canceled, unfortunately, because of the snow.
Yeah.
So there's been a couple new players that have come in that have been interested in multiple games, and they've learned so far Netrunner and Thrones, and they're all pretty excited about learning Star Wars. So it's been really good. We had a game night kit for Netrunner the other day that pulled 17 people in on a Monday night, which is just ridiculous because when I started our local community, like when I started pulling things together at Battleground, we were having like 2 to 4 people. Like it was very small. So yeah, it's been great. Lots of activity in all of the LCGs. We actually just ran I just ran the Conquest Store Championship. I didn't play, but we had 12 people, which is not bad. I don't know. I think Conquest falls in the like it's around the Star Wars popularity, right? Like I know Netrunner is
it's not Netrunner
top,
and Thrones, is it?
And Thrones seems like it's bigger than Star Wars and Conquest, but they're about the same size. So I'm kind of looking at the same. I expect about 12 people for our Star Wars Store Championship, but I'm looking forward to it. It's got rescheduled for later this month. So
good stuff.
Yeah,
Mick, anything from you?
We just had our winter kit. It was a good turnout, a little bit smaller than the Store Championship, but I know that a couple people couldn't make it because of other Store Championships for different games. So looking forward to seeing them at future events. There's going to be a Store Championship at Level Up in St. Paul, Minnesota, on February 21st. So I'm hoping to see the regular crew and then those other people who couldn't show up before. And then, if you're new to the game, this is another good entry point into it, and come out and see the local people and play some Star Wars with us that afternoon.
Fab. From my side of things over here in the UK, I've got to say a huge thanks, I guess, to Anton and all the mods for our UK Facebook group. We've recently passed a bit of a milestone of membership at 250. So that's
nice.
The group kind of went to a 2.0. The old group got disbanded less than a year ago, so it's good to see the numbers back up to and beyond where they used to be for the old groups. That's good work. And probably shout out to the Sanctuary Games. Actually, this was the Store Championship I mentioned at the start that had a very low turnout. So I've really got to kind of push anyone in kind of the Midlands area, get across to Sanctuary Games. It's a beautiful venue. I'll put a picture up so you can see it. It's actually based in an old church, so it's gorgeous. And Richard there and the crew are really dedicated to kind of pushing all the LCGs forward and trying to build that community. So it comes back to what we were talking about last episode, Tom, and around building those communities and keeping them going.
And it's great when the stores really put in the effort to try to do it, right? Because like generally, like we were talking about last week, usually there's a player or two that do some of the work, but the stores have to be willing, right? Like when I asked my store to order me 20 game night kits among 4 different games,
and they do,
that's like $500 worth of stuff that's just sitting on their shelf that like I'm going to use at my discretion over the next 6 months, and they're totally okay with that, right? So it's great when we have stores that are willing to support these games, and stores that are getting Store Championships that don't have great turnouts. Like I agree with you completely. I think people should make the effort to drive out there, get them a good turnout so that maybe, if they have one or two local people that play, but, you get another 4 or 5 that come out from all around the area, it might get more people talking to other people. You might find out that there's people that are closer to you than you realize. Any kind of community growth is
good.
It's great.
Check out Sanctuary Games. It's a great store. I'll put a link and a picture up. And then finally, I've not managed to get that many games in on Skype, so I'm looking to try and remedy that over the next few weeks. So shout out to all the guys on Skype, these two. And
I will back up what you just said, by the way, because I've been the same way. Like I went in really hard right after Worlds, and the community was growing, and it's great. I see posts every day on Facebook and every day in the Skype group online, and I haven't had the time between store championships and game night kits, and I haven't been on there much. I think Mick's really been holding down the fort.
For sure.
Trying. Been a little bit less last couple of weeks, but
yeah.
I think.
But there's also, now that the community has grown to a point where there is a lot of active people on there, people are starting to get to know each other, and I'll tell you, right after Worlds, I was getting a lot of messages for like, hey, do you want to play a game? Direct messages instead of just like community messages, right? Like, hey, I'm available. Who else is available? And I see a lot of that kind of like, hey, I'm available post, and almost always people are getting responses.
Even if it's not you.
Whether it's direct messages or, so it's great.
So check out the Skype group. It's an amazing resource. I've met players from all over the world. A couple of weeks ago, I played a guy from Israel, Offer. And he, as soon as we got a game in, I think it was his first time playing on Skype, he mentioned that him and his friends would really kind of get into it and play more. So that's what we want to see. So if you want a game with anyone, check out the link to the Skype community. Join it if you haven't already on Facebook, and it's a great little way of getting games in without having to leave your front room or put pants on, which... win.
Pants are recommended.
Pants are optional. Pants are optional.
Pants are recommended because the camera points down.
Oh, true. Yeah, true.
Shirts, less required. No.
Are we going to do our Wookiee thing, Tom?
Oh God, do I want to know?
Once the video's done.
Do I want to know? Okay. So I think we'll end it there. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I think this has ended up being another kind of pushing 2 hours. So sorry. Thanks for sticking with us. Again, I'm hopefully going to try and get audio-only versions of these up so that people can listen to them on commutes and not destroy their mobile data allowances. But yeah, thanks to everyone for tuning in, and thanks to you two fine world champions for joining again for another great episode of The Council.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Cheers to you both. See you next time.
Later.